Good morning. It's Michael Jonah. It's December 30th, 2011, and I just wanted to do a brief report. This is pertaining to an interview with the chairman of the House of Representatives Science Committee. Basically, it's the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, and it was a very interesting interview. And the chairman took the opportunity basically to express his views. I have watched several of the recorded hearings that took place on the Science Committee, and basically I could tell from Representative Ralph Hall's comments that he is definitely not very eager to go down the road that we have been witnessing in the skies of geoengineering and chemtrailing and weather modification. And in this interview, he made it very clear. Now, he has just been appointed the chairman. He was on the committee, but now he has replaced Bart Gordon, Democrat, Tennessee, who is the chairman on the committee since basically 1997 to 2011. He was on the committee, and he was chairman 2007 to 2011 for 4 years. So he just stepped down and retired from, I think, from politics, and is now a lawyer for a global law firm lobbying shop that represents high-tech and energy sectors. So he's gone into being a full-time lobbyist. So Ralph Hall replaced him as chairman, and Ralph Hall, unfortunately, is 88 years old. I would feel better if he was younger, and that we would be guaranteed that he would have a very long stay overseeing what is going on within the committee, especially in regards to climate and geoengineering. Basically, what he indicated was, in the December 1st interview, that he, I'll just read the article for you. He doesn't think much of the investigations exonerating the scientists involved in the 2009 ClimateGate email scandal. He also believes that climate scientists are driven by hopes of financial gain in producing reports that provide evidence for global warming. Representative Ralph Hall doesn't do many interviews, so it was a coup when the national journals Carl Davenport was able to get the 88-year-old legislator to answer several questions about his views on climate change as part of a December story on how Congressional Republicans are reluctant to answer even the most basic questions about where they stand on the issue. Hall told National Journal that he's pretty close to the views of his fellow Texan Governor Rick Perry, and feeling that climate science may be an idea hatched by scientists to garner federal funding for their research. And when National Journal pointed to an article saying that nearly all climate researchers think human activity has led to global warming by increasing greenhouse gas emissions, Hall replied, and they each get $5,000 for every report like that they give out. Hall comments were so provocative that Science Insider asked his aides for a more detailed explanation, and he obliged with a 4-paragraph comment. See below. Hall told Science Insider that his use of dollar amount refers to the size of research grants to scientists, not the amount they are paid for issuing a report. $5,000 appears to have been a low estimate of what many climate researchers actually receive, he wrote. Average climate-related research grants supported by the National Science Foundation, make a note of that, folks, because these people obviously have been partially involved in what you've been witnessing in the skies, are well above $300,000. The chair also said he believes that leaked emails from scientists at the UK's University of East Anglia raised serious questions about the trustworthiness of climate scientists involved in those exchanges. He referred to the numerous investigations into their conduct as strawman reviews that failed to address the real underlying allegations that continued to undermine the integrity of those concerned. And he wrote that a second batch of similar emails released recently highlight many of the same concerns. Ralph Hall, in an interview with Coral Davenport in her story on December 1st issue, Heads in the Sand, with permission of National Journal, do you think climate change is causing the Earth to become warmer? Hall, I can't say. It doesn't have a percentage of effects on it. 1%, 3%, 5%, but I don't think it's the cause. I don't think we can control what God controls. We put $32 billion into it and don't see very much change. So I find that really fascinating, the $32 billion. So you ask yourself, what have they been spending on all these activities? And $32 billion is a number that popped up in this interview. And that's a lot of cash. That's a lot of aerosoling. That's a lot of scientific analysis. That's a lot of chemtrailing, geoengineering. Because geoengineering is said to not be a very expensive undertaking. I mean, it's relatively inexpensive to perform. So $32 billion, I think, indicates that they've been doing a lot of it, as we have documented in the skies. Next question. Last year, the Proceedings of the National Academies of Science published a survey finding that 97% of scientists were in consensus that human activities lead to global warming. Hall, and they each get $5,000 for every report like that they give out. That's just my guess. I don't have any proof of that, but I don't believe them. I still want to listen to them and believe what I believe I ought to believe. National Journal, have you read Governor Perry's book, Fed Up? Yes. He essentially says climate science may be a conspiracy theory or may be put forth by scientists who are working together to put forth findings in order to get funding. Are you on the same page as Governor Perry on this? Hall, I'm pretty close. I think we ought to have an honest heir to science. They can come before my committee. I always put someone to come and testify when they're testifying against it, to give them the other side. I think we ought to listen to them. I just don't think we ought to mind them. Because what have we got for the $32 billion we spent? There's that number again. Do you mean the $32 billion that was spent in the stimulus? I mean everything that's been spent knocking and pushing global warming. I'm really very fearful of freezing. And I don't have any science to prove that, but we have a lot of science that tells us they're not basing it on real scientific facts. And we need to listen to more. I'm willing to listen for more. If we believe everything they say, we can't clean China. They're producing 6 coal-fed operations a week. We can't clean the world for them. We can't clean it for Russia. We can't clean it for India. We can't clean it for Mexico. We're poorer now than we've ever been since the Great Depression. National Journal. Paul Krugman and other columnists have criticized Republicans and said that the party could become labeled anti-science. Paul, I'm not anti-science, I'm pro-science. But we ought to have some believable science. National Journal. What's the appropriate role for government on the issue of climate change? To listen to good science, proper science, and know the difference, and not to use it for political thrust or political gain, because it's something that affects the world. But we can't be 9/11 for the world. I wish we could. We could have at one time, but we can't now. We have to be more careful what outlays we make for something that hasn't been proved. Ralph Hall, in a statement to Science Insider, expanding on his comments to National Journal. The current administration continues to move ahead with regulations it justifies based on available science, and in this fiscal environment, these actions have the potential to greatly affect our economy. It is necessary that Congress conduct strong oversight to ensure the integrity of not only the information, but also the process. I continue to hear from experts on climate scientists especially those who have testified before the committee, and I continue to have concerns with respect to the processes used and the resulting information. Recently, released emails highlight many of the same concerns that initially emerged in the 2009 ClimateGate emails. A small cadre of scientists coordinating advocacy rather than communicating uncertainty, manipulating journals rather than facilitating peer review, and cherry-picking data rather than following transparency principles, which is a central tenet of science. While several groups have investigated the actions associated with the ClimateGate emails, these strongman reviews failed to address the real underlying allegations that continue to undermine the integrity of those involved. These same scientists are continually receiving huge sums of taxpayer dollars in the form of federal grants. $5,000 appears to have been a low estimate of what many climate researchers actually receive. Average climate-related research grants supported by the National Science Foundation, for example, are well above $300,000. The National Academies of Science report, Advancing the Science of Climate Change, highlighted several uncertainties associated with climate change, such as the role of forcings, that's chemtrails, and geoengineering that you witness in the skies, and feedback processes, climate sensitivity, and how climate change is manifested on a local or regional scale. As researchers work to address these uncertainties, it is important to ensure that they do so in a manner that keeps the public trust. So I wanted to share this article with you. It gives you some leads, so to speak, as to some of the players involved: the National Science Foundation, the National Academies of Science report, and of course, we all remember ClimateGate, which basically blew the Copenhagen Treaty right out of the water 2 weeks before the voting was to occur. That would have definitely impacted the sovereignty of nations in regards to their usage on energy. And it all highlighted basically highly dubious, potentially manipulated, false, and just unthinkable behavior on the behalf of certain scientists involved in pursuing and advancing the global warming carbon agenda. I wanted to share this with you, and I would say that if you have any concerns about climate change and about what's going on with continued geoengineering and chemtrails that they have not stopped doing, which means that they're still funded to do this. And maybe that funding hasn't run out, maybe it's going to be renewed. But until more people become involved and speak out against this, okay? And this is the point man right here. And he's an advocate, by the sounds of it, of sane, rational, common sense approach based on true science and scientific review. What is occurring in our skies, what its impact could possibly be on the climate change that we have witnessed, which it has a strong case has not been made that humans are significantly part of what is going on with the climate. Your well-being is seriously impacted, or could be seriously impacted, because you have groups of scientists and individuals that are involved and want to make this a multi-billion-dollar industry permanently. And that means that will impact your environment. That will impact your weather, your skies, your health, as they're spraying millions of tons of aluminum oxides, which is a neurotoxin, as a major proponent of this chemtrail operation. They are neurotoxins and have a serious impact on the environment. Take care and 2012 is just around the corner. Happy New Year's to you all.